Hello, my name's Briers, sometimes known as the Rev, and I'm going to offer a spiritual response to a question someone has sent in today. So, I don't have a short nugget question that I can read out this time, but I've had an inquiry recently about psychic attack. So when someone's being attacked psychically by other people. To many of you that may seem like a strange or even slightly crazy idea, and I can understand that. I think in this modern world, in our modern context, it's not something we really think about. And I'd say in many indigenous cultures it's quite a common idea for someone to psychically or magically direct ill will towards someone, to intend bad for someone. And that's often dismissed as superstitious, like primitive superstition, and I think that's a kind of condescending way of looking at those ideas and beliefs, which largely comes from our colonial era, where we were going out into the world and thought we were the most brilliant people in the world, and obviously the most developed, and all of these kind of ideas which are essentially arrogant ideas. So I feel uncomfortable about that kind of dismissal, and it's my personal perspective that the world is such a wide, amazing, deep, mysterious place that it would really take a level of existential arrogance for me to say, this is my perception for myself and it's up to you how you think of it, but for me it feels like it would take a real kind of existential arrogance to say that something is rubbish, that it's not true. I can say that I don't experience that, that's not accurate in my perception. I can take those perspectives. I can certainly have a healthy degree of questioning, scepticism, to ensure that I don't just swallow every idea whole that I hear about, but to just flat out say that's rubbish, or to dismiss something as superstition or someone's beliefs or ideas as invalid, I don't agree with. It's not something I want to do. So that's my perspective around it. Now, in terms of how to deal with it, if you do buy into the idea, or even just as a way of thinking about it. So another way of thinking about it, which may be more acceptable or more palatable to our Western minds, to the modern mind, is if we think in terms of thoughts. So I can think ill about someone. Most of us do lots of the time. It's human. Someone upsets us, straight away there's a little train of thought that goes, "Oh, I'd like to get him back," or "God, if only I could hit him," or whatever else that thought might be. Even if just for a moment that we slightly wish them ill. I slightly wish them ill. Someone cuts me up in traffic, and I think, whatever frustrated thought spills out. Those thoughts happen. As I mentioned in posts before, we can't completely control our thoughts. Maybe some people can, but I've not met anyone that can completely control their thoughts. So those thoughts are still going to happen, and there's no point beating myself about having those thoughts. But there is a difference for me between having a thought and sending a thought. So if I have a thought, it's just something that occurs in my head. I can accept that. I can choose not to continue it, and I can let it go and move into a different thought, into a different mindset. But if I take a thought like that, a thought where I'm wishing someone ill, where I might think badly or direct a thought of kind of a wish for harm to come to someone, when I have one of those thoughts and I attach to it, and I kind of push it out into the world, like I intentionally engage with that line of thinking and deliver it out into the world, that's a different thing. And if you embrace any idea of there being an energetic reality of the world, and there's various different versions of that, from Ki and Chi in the Far East, Prana in India, magic in Europe, or the more modern ideas around quantum physics, then if our consciousness does affect the universe around us, then driving a thought of ill will out into the world, maybe that has an effect on someone. Maybe that can direct a kind of negativity or a misfortune towards that person. Maybe. So that's another way of thinking about psychic attack, that it could be unintentional. It's just someone unconsciously, repeatedly thinking ill about one person. That could have negative effects. More than anything else, my experience with instances of psychic attack, or instances where it seemed like someone was negatively under the influence of another person, most of how it took effect was actually based on creating fear. So that's why many shamans or magic workers around the world don't really like to take on the job of cursing. Like they might get paid to curse someone. One farmer doesn't like his neighbour and he pays a shaman to curse that farmer's crops, maybe. They don't tend to like to take on those jobs. And some of that is maybe a kind of karmic idea that it might come back on them, but much more so it's just really hard work and often ineffective, because you've got to intimidate that person so much that they start to screw up. That's the heart of it, is that if you can sufficiently get that person off balance, then they'll start to seem like they're having a lot of bad luck. If someone is constantly in a state of stress and nervous tension, then they're more likely to fall off a ladder, or cross the road without thinking about it and get hit by a car, or fall off a roof, or any of these little accidents that can happen, cut themselves while they're working in the kitchen. Accidents tend to happen more when we're in a stressed, nervous state. So if you can sufficiently intimidate someone by making them think that they're under attack, that there is ill will being directed at them all the time, then they're much more likely, because of that stress, to make mistakes and have accidents, which would seem like they've got bad luck around them, bad energy surrounding them. So actually the basis of cursing or psychic attack, a real core of it is psychological, primarily, I think. And that's supported by an idea that I heard of coming out of West Africa, that the story goes that the farmers in West Africa know this. They know that cursing is hard work for a shaman and that it's mostly intimidation. So if a shaman walks by your fields as a farmer and he says, "I curse your crops, may they wither and die," a potent curse, the farmer just turns around and with a smile says, "I bless my crops, may they flourish and grow." Because that's just as powerful. They're just words. And if I don't allow this person to intimidate me, then I won't experience the fruits of that ill luck. I'll maybe say more about blessing and cursing another day, because there's a way that we can enchant ourselves and create the good and bad in our lives that I think may be valuable to you. So maybe that's for another video another time. But hopefully that response, that information, or those ideas about psychic attack and what it might consist of are useful to you. And as ever, those ideas and this response is offered with love.